Before I tell you what happened, here's the point of this story. If you're a man trying to hold a marriage together while your work is on fire, you need to understand one thing. Stress doesn't create disrespect. It reveals it. The early signs aren't always screaming matches. Sometimes it's the quiet stuff. No questions, no curiosity, a look that says you're no longer worth the effort. This is about how to spot that shift, how to stop bargaining for basic respect, and how to protect what actually matters when people start picking lifeboats. Not with drama, not with speeches, with calm decisions, clear boundaries, and a willingness to let go of the things that were only making you bleed slower. I walked into my house in Naperville a little after 6, and the first thing I noticed was the silence. No TV, no kitchen noise, no hey, how'd it go? Not even the fake hum of normal life. My phone was dead, completely dead. The last call with the investors had drained the battery and whatever patience I had left. They didn't even reject me like adults. They did that polite, freezing thing. We're going to pause. Translation, you're on your own. I stepped into the living room and saw Lauren standing by the coffee table. Suitcase open, half packed, clothes folded, so neat it looked like a drill exercise. She didn't turn around when I came in, didn't flinch, just kept stacking shirts like she was loading ammo. I set my keys down slowly. What is this? She placed a sweater flat, pressed the air out with both hands, and finally looked at me like I was a delivery guy who rang the wrong doorbell. I want a divorce, she said. I'm leaving tonight. No warm-up, no build-up. No, we need to talk. Just a clean cut. I stared at the suitcase, then at her face. Not angry, not sad, empty. You're packed, I said. So this isn't a mood. It's not a mood. I let out a short laugh that didn't have humor in it. Okay, why right now? Why today? Lauren zipped a side pocket. Because this is the moment, it's clear. Clear that what? That you're not going to fix it. I took a step closer, not threatening, just trying to make reality line up. Lauren, I spent the last 2 years holding everything up. I covered your credit cards. I kept the mortgage paid. I funded your little studio when it didn't make a dime. Her eyes flicked to my shoes like she was bored already. You always bring up money. Because it's real, I replied. It's not poetry. It's receipts. I didn't ask you to be my savior, she said, folding another shirt. I'm not obligated to stay because you chose to play hero. I leaned against the doorway, kept my voice flat. I didn't play hero. I play husband. Lauren didn't blink. You were a husband when you were a man with potential. That was the deal. That word. Potential. Like I was a stock she bought early. I raised an eyebrow. So now I'm what? A bad investment. She exhaled like I was making her late. Your business is a dead idea, Dan. You know it. I know it. I need something that doesn't fall apart. I nodded once slow. So stability? That's what you're saying. Yes. And you're doing this now, I said, when I'm buried in debt and the investors just iced me. Lauren shrugged. That's not my fault. I stepped closer to the suitcase and tapped the handle with one finger. You didn't even ask how my day went. I don't need to, she said. I can see it on you. That's cold, I replied. It's honest. I held her gaze. Is there somebody else? For half a second, she paused. Just a tiny delay. A flicker. Then she looked past me toward the hallway. That's not relevant. There it was. A crack in the wall. Enough to see something moving behind it. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't plead. I just let the silence sit between us, heavy and clean. If I'd known where it was headed, I told myself in that moment, I would have stopped trying to earn respect from someone already shopping for the exit. Lauren closed the suitcase and pulled it upright like she practiced. I'm not doing a scene. Good, I replied. Neither am I. She walked toward the door. I followed at a distance. Not chasing. Escorting the truth out of my house. At the entryway, she grabbed her coat. Expensive. Newer than anything she'd bought in years when I was paying for groceries and her studio rent. I nodded at it. Nice coat. Her jaw tightened. Don't start. I'm not starting, I said. I am noticing. Lauren opened the door. I'll send you the paperwork. I rested my hand on the wall by the light switch, steady. Take whatever you plan to take. But don't call it love. Call it logistics. She looked at me, finally. A hint of irritation, like I refused to play my part. You're acting like I'm cruel, she said. No, Evia. You're acting like you're efficient. Then she walked out. No tears. No apology. No turning back. The door clicked shut like she was closing a stranger's apartment. And just like that, the house felt too big, too quiet, and way too honest. That night, I sat at the kitchen table with a stack of late notices, email printouts, and a laptop that kept pinging with reminders I couldn't solve. I didn't spiral. I don't do spirals. I do inventory. Family gone. Business bleeding. Phone dead. And my head kept replaying that half-second pause when I asked about someone else. I stared at the dark window over the sink and said out loud, to nobody, "So you picked the moment I was most vulnerable." The next line came right after, and it was colder. That means this wasn't just leaving. This was timing. My sleep was the kind you get in short bursts, like your body is resting but your brain refuses to stand down. In the morning, I showered, put on a clean shirt from my closet like nothing happened, and drove to the office. The parking lot was half empty. Inside, it smelled like stale coffee and resignation. Desks cleared. Chairs pushed in like people had already surrendered. I walked down the hallway and saw Miles Reed standing by the conference room window, hands in his pockets, staring at the street like he was waiting for a bus. Miles was my co-founder, my partner, the guy who used to slap my shoulder and say, "We're building something real." Now, he looked like a man about to explain why he wasn't going to help carry the couch upstairs. He turned when he saw me. "Hey, I didn't waste time. Lauren left last night. Want a divorce." Miles's face did the right thing for about 2 seconds. Concern, sympathetic eyes, slight head tilt. Then he did the other thing, the real thing. "Dan," he said carefully, "I need to talk to you about the company." I nodded once. "Of course you do." Miles stepped closer, voice lower. "I got an offer. Stable. Good salary. Benefits. They want me in 2 weeks." I stared at him. "So you're leaving?" "I'm trying to be smart," he replied. "This is getting unpredictable." "Unpredictable," I echoed. "That's one word." Miles swallowed. "I want to cash out my equity. Clean exit." I let that hang. Then I smiled, small and sharp. "Clean exit." He lifted his hands slightly. "It's not personal." I leaned back against the wall and looked him up and down like he was a contract I needed to read twice. "You're asking to take your parachute while I'm still flying the plane." "I helped build this," Miles said. "And I'm the one keeping it alive," I replied. "You want a clean exit, you can have it. But not by dumping the wreckage in my lap." Miles's eyes narrowed. "What are you saying?" I took my laptop bag off my shoulder and sat on a chair, slow. "I'm saying your access changes today." His mouth opened. "Dan, come on." "No," I cut in calm. "You don't get to keep keys to a house you're moving out of." Miles frowned. "That's hostile." "That's boundaries," I replied. "Hostile is smiling while you cut the rope." He shifted, trying a softer tone. "Look, I'm sorry about Lauren, but that's exactly why I'm doing this. Storm hits. You don't stand around proving loyalty. You get safe." I nodded. "Thanks for the motivational poster." Miles sighed. "You're going to make this hard." I glanced at the conference room where the whiteboard still had our old roadmap written on it, like a joke that never landed. "You made it hard the second you walked in here with an escape plan." He stared at me. "So what now?" I opened my bag, pulled out my charger, plugged it in. "Now you email me your personal files list. You keep what's yours. You hand over what's company. And you don't touch a single client conversation again." Miles's jaw clenched. "You can't do that." I met his eyes. "Watch me." He took a step closer, voice tight. "We called ourselves partners." "We did," I agreed. "That's why this should have been personal." Miles stood there for a second like he wanted me to beg him to stay, like that would validate his importance. I didn't. Finally, he nodded, stiff. "Fine." He walked out, and I watched him go. Same pattern, same timing. When the storm hits, everyone suddenly discovers they deserve a lifeboat. By lunch, I'd changed passwords, reassigned accounts, locked down our internal systems. Not out of spite, out of survival. And when I sat back down at my desk, my phone finally turned on. 3 texts from Lauren. 1 line each. "We need to keep this civil. I'm meeting someone about paperwork. Don't make this ugly." I stared at the screen and laughed once, quiet. Civil, ugly. Like I was the unpredictable one. I typed back. "We'll keep it simple. Logistics only. No heart emojis. No questions. No can we talk." Because that's the trap. Endless talking where you bleed your dignity out in small payments. 2 days later, she asked to meet at a neutral office downtown, one of those bland places with gray carpet and fake plants. I walked in alone. She walked in with a man in a suit carrying a folder like he was proud of it. Lauren had a new look. Hair done. Makeup sharp. That same expensive coat. She didn't sit until her guy pulled out the chair for her. I sat down and looked at her. You look ready. She smiled thin. So do you. Her representative slid papers toward me. The proposal is straightforward. Split assets, including your company interest, since it was built during the marriage. I didn't even glance at the pages yet. I looked at Lauren. So that's what this is. Lauren's eyes stayed flat. It's fair. Fair. I repeated, like I was testing the word for cracks. Her guy started talking again, pointing at sections, numbers, percentages. I held up a hand. Stop. He paused. I turned to Lauren. Let me ask you something. When you were folding your shirts like you were packing for a business trip, was this already printed? Lauren's lips pressed together. It's not your business. It's literally my business, I replied. She didn't answer. I leaned back and finally flipped through the pages. House, car, accounts, retirement. And right there, my company. The company that was currently worth almost nothing on paper, but everything in reality if I could keep control long enough to rebuild. I tapped the page. You want half of something you called a dead idea. Lauren shrugged. It's still an asset. Her guy added, this is standard. I looked at Lauren again. You're not here because you're hurt. You're here because you want the safe side of the ship. Her eyes flashed. I'm not doing this with you. Right? I replied. You're doing it to me. The representative cleared his throat. If you'd like to propose an alternative. I do, I said, and slid the papers back toward them. You keep the house. You keep the car. You keep the comfort. Lauren's eyes narrowed. And you take zero of the company, I replied. No peace. No claim. You walk away from that completely. Her guy started to object. That's not. I held up my hand again. Let her answer. Lauren looked at me, studying. Why would I do that? I smiled without warmth. Because you don't believe in it. You said it's dead. That doesn't mean. It means you'd rather have the house than a gamble. I cut in. And I'd rather keep my control than live in a place that echoes. Lauren's eyes flicked to her representative, then back to me. So you're buying yourself out with the house. Call it whatever helps you sleep, I replied. But yes, you get your stability. I get my work. Her representative leaned in. Lauren, we should. Lauren lifted a finger at him, and he stopped. She looked straight at me. Done. No hositashchen. No bargaining. No pretending she needed time to think. Just done. That told me everything I needed to know. If this had ever been about us, she would have paused. She didn't pause. She took the guaranteed comfort and left the risk on my plate like it was trash day. I nodded once. Good. Lauren stood up immediately, already moving on. I'm glad you're being reasonable. I stood too. I'm being precise. She tilted her head. You're bitter. I adjusted my jacket. No, Lauren. Bitter is a man who keeps paying for a woman who already left. I'm just closing accounts. Her representative tried to shake my hand. I ignored it and grabbed my copy of the papers. Lauren walked out first. Of course she did. Outside, the wind was cold. I didn't feel dramatic. I felt clean. Not happy. Whole. That's the difference. After that, I didn't have a home. Technically, I had a house. She did. I had clothes, most of them in my trunk. I had a car until the transfer date. After that, I had keys to a work office and a gym membership that let me shower. I wasn't sleeping in my car every night, but my life was basically stored in it like a rolling closet. And I didn't tell people. Not because I was ashamed, because I didn't want the pity. Pity is just another form of control. People want you weaker so they can feel generous. A week later, I got a message from someone I didn't expect. Amy, Lauren's younger sister. Amy wasn't loud like Lauren. She was the one at family dinners who would watch the room, sip her drink, and raise an eyebrow when Lauren started acting like the head of state. Her text was simple. I heard, I have a couch. No pressure. I stared at it for a long minute. Then I typed, why are you texting me? She replied, because you're not a headline. You're a person, and you look like someone who hasn't slept. I almost laughed. I texted back, I'm fine. Her reply came quick, Fine people don't live out of their trunk. I sat in my car outside the office, engine off, hands resting on the wheel. I didn't want charity. I didn't want complications. And I definitely didn't want Lauren's family in my business. But Amy wasn't offering sympathy. She was offering a solution. So I wrote, one night, I'll pay. She answered, you'll contribute when you're steady. I'm not running a hotel. That line hit different. No games. No sweetness. Just a boundary. I drove to her place that night. Small apartment above a little shop. Clean hallway. Warm light. When she opened the door, the first thing I smelled was cinnamon. Not perfume. Not candles trying too hard. Just normal. Amy stepped aside. Shoes off if you want. Couch is there. Bathroom's down the hall. I have extra towels. I carried in one bag, not my whole life. Pride still matters. She glanced at my bag. That all you brought? For now, I replied. Amy nodded like she understood the language of men who refuse to fall apart in public. Kitchen's yours. I made pasta. If you're not hungry, fine. If you are, eat. No speeches. I set the bag down and looked at her. Lauren put you up to this. Amy's face didn't change. Lauren doesn't put me up to anything. Fair, I said. I just don't want weird angles. Amy walked to the stove and stirred the pot. Your life is already weird. This is just practical. I sat at the small table while she served 2 plates. She didn't ask how I felt. She didn't do that soft voice people use when they want you to confess pain so they can comfort themselves. She just ate. After a few minutes, she said, so, what's the plan? I chewed and swallowed. Work. Fix the company. Keep moving. And Lauren? She asked, casual like asking about traffic. I don't chase people who walk out, I replied. Amy nodded once. Good. Ich glänzte her. That's it? No, but she's family speech. Amy smirked. Lauren is good at making things look moral while she's doing what she wants. I stopped confusing that for character years ago. I leaned back slightly. You always this blunt? Only when I'm right, she replied. I laughed quiet. Okay, about money. I'm not staying here for free. Amy set her fork down. Then don't. I'll contribute, I said. Groceries, utilities. Something. Amy held my gaze. You can buy groceries. That's fine. You don't get to turn this into a transaction to protect your ego. I smiled. So you see me. I'm not blind, she replied. And I'm not here to manage your pride. I'm here to offer a couch. Take it or don't. I nodded. I'll take it. Amy stood and pointed down the hall. Then sleep. You look like you've been negotiating with your ceiling. That night, for the first time in weeks, my body actually shut off. Not because life got easy, because the room didn't feel like a courtroom. It felt like neutral ground. Over the next month, I rebuilt with boring discipline. One small client, then another. No big announcements. No chest dumping. Just work. I kept my calendar tight. I stopped taking calls after 8. I turned off notifications for anything that wasn't money or operations. And I noticed something. When you stop begging the world to be kind, the world either respects you or gets out of your way. Amy watched all of it without hovering. Sometimes she'd hand me coffee in the morning and say, you have that look. Eat something. Sometimes she'd sit on the couch while I reviewed contracts and ask, is this client going to waste your time? She wasn't trying to rescue me. She was treating me like a man capable of standing up again. One night, I came home late and found a bowl of soup on the counter with a note. Don't be stubborn. Eat. It was the first soft thing I'd seen in weeks. And it didn't feel manipulative. It felt earned. A few days later, Lauren called. Not text. An actual call. I watched the phone buzz on the table and let it ring. Amy looked up from her book. You gonna answer? No. It'll be Amy nodded like she expected that. Good. The next morning, Lauren texted. Can we talk? I just want peace. Peace. Another word people use when they mean control. I typed back. Logistics only. Email. That was my first real initiative after she left. Not reacting. Setting the format. She tried again 2 days later with a different tone. I'm sorry things got harsh. I didn't mean to hurt you. There it was. The first illusion. A little apology. Like care. Just enough sugar to see if I'd loosen the gate. I stared at the message and smiled. I showed Amy. Look. Suddenly, she has feelings. Amy read it, then handed my phone back. She's not apologizing. She's checking if you're still available. I replied, noted. Use email. No anger. No lecture. Closed door. Weeks passed. The company stabilized. Revenues started coming in consistently. I leased a small office space again. Nothing fancy. Just mine. Miles was gone, and honestly, good. People who run at the first wave shouldn't be steering the boat. Amy and I didn't rush anything. We didn't define it with grand speeches. We just became close. Cooking together. Watching dumb shows. Morning coffee that turned into long talks about life without trying to impress each other. One night, she sat on the couch with her feet tucked under her and said, "I'm going to say something. You can shut it down if you want." I looked over. "Go." She took a breath. "You don't have to keep punishing yourself for picking the wrong person." I didn't answer right away. I just watched her. Then I said, "I'm not punishing myself. I'm training myself." Amy's eyes softened. "Fair." That was when I knew. This wasn't a rebound. This was respect building, brick by brick. A couple months later, I took her to a rooftop dinner spot. Quiet, simple, good food. No crowd that wanted to watch her life like entertainment. We ate, talked, laughed. I reached across the table and took her hand. Amy looked at me like she already knew what was coming. "Don't make it a big performance." I smirked. "I don't do performances." I held her gaze. "I love you." She didn't gasp. Didn't do drama. She just nodded once and squeezed my hand. "Good. I love you too." My phone buzzed on the table. "Lauren, text message. We need to talk. Urgent." I stared at it for 2 seconds. Then I turned the phone over. Amy raised an eyebrow. "Urgent, ooh." "Apparently," I replied. A minute later, it buzzed again. Then a call. Then another text. "Please, just 5 minutes." Amy watched me calmly. "You're not going to let her steal your night." I picked up my phone, typed one line, and hit send. "In another life, I'm on a date with your sister." I set the phone down and went back to my food. Amy shook her head, half amused, half stunned. "That's direct." "It's accurate," I replied. "And it sets the boundary." The buzzing stopped for about a week. Then, on a Tuesday afternoon, my assistant buzzed me through at the office. "Done? Lauren Carter is here. She says it's important." I stared at the intercom. Did I invite her? No. "Then she can leave." There was a pause. "She's not calm." I exhaled once. "Fine. 5 minutes." Door open. Lauren walked in looking like a person who hadn't slept. Eyes red. Hair pulled back like she did it in a car mirror. No expensive coat this time. No polished smile. She shut the door behind her, then saw my assistant still sitting outside through the glass and froze. I nodded toward the chair. "Sit or don't. Talk." Lauren's voice shook. "This is going to become public." I tilted my head. "Public how?" She swallowed hard. "There are going to be questions. About the company. About Miles." I kept my face still. "You and Miles." Lauren flinched like I'd slapped her with a fact. "I didn't come here to fight." "You came here because you're scared," I replied. "So, tell the truth fast." She stared at the floor. "Miles used me." I let a beat pass. "Try again." "With details." Lauren's hands twisted together. "He asked me things. About your clients. About how you handled accounts. He said it was just to understand where you were. He said he was worried." I watched her carefully. "And you told him." "I didn't think." "No," I cut in. "You did think. You just liked how it felt to be important to someone while I was drowning." Lauren's eyes filled. "Damn, please." "I didn't know he'd move things." I kept my voice calm. "What did he move?" She squeezed her eyes shut for a second. "He was lining up a transition. He wanted to take certain contacts with him. He said it was normal. He said you were going to collapse anyway, and he didn't want to go down with you." I nodded slowly. "So you helped him check my blind spots." Lauren shook her head quickly. "I didn't help him. I didn't mean to. I was angry. And I was scared. You were stressed all the time. The house felt like a waiting room." I leaned back in my chair. "So you built your own exit." Lauren's voice cracked. "I was trying to survive." I looked at her, steady. "That's the thing, Lauren. You didn't just walk away when it got hard. You timed it. You made sure I didn't have support on either side. Home gone. Partner gone. And you let him look through the window while I was trying to keep the building standing." Lauren wiped her face, messy. "I'm telling you now because I want you to hear it from me." I nodded. "You want me to manage your guilt?" "No," she said quickly. "I want you to be prepared." "Prepared for what?" I asked. Lauren hesitated. People are talking. Miles is trying to protect himself. He's saying things. And I might get pulled into it. I held her gaze. And you came here because you think I'll fix it. Lauren's silence answered for her. I stood up, walked to the door, and opened it wider so my assistant could see straight into the office. Lauren looked up, startled. What are you doing? I kept my tone even. Ending this. She stood too, panicking. Dan, don't do this. Don't shut me out right now. I smiled thin. Lauren, you shut yourself out months ago. You just didn't like the sound the door made when it finally latched. Her eyes widened. I'm trying to be honest. No, iraplia. You're trying to reduce damage. And I get it. That's your style. Lauren's voice rose. You're going to punish me? I shook my head. I'm not punishing you. I'm correcting my mistake. What mistake? She snapped. I looked her in the eye. I mistook your presence for loyalty. Lauren stood there trembling, like she wanted me to soften. I didn't. I pointed at the hallway. You're done here, she whispered. Done? I stepped closer, voice low and final. You didn't break me. You just made sure I had nothing to lean on. And that's the last time you get that kind of access. Lauren's face crumpled. So that's it. I nodded once. That's it. There's nothing left to talk about. She walked out, like she was leaving a building she used to own. I closed the door behind her and didn't look back. A year later, my life looked nothing like that quiet kitchen table with past due notices. The company was profitable, not fantasy profitable, real profitable. Employees, stable client, calm weeks where my phone didn't feel like a grenade. I had a new place, smaller than the old house, but it was mine. Clean, quiet, and built around my life, not someone else's comfort. Amy lived with me. We didn't save each other. We backed each other. There's a difference. Weekend breakfasts, gym in the mornings, friends over for simple dinners. My work stayed mine, my home stayed peaceful, and my time stopped being a resource other people felt entitled to. Lauren, for what I heard through the grapevine, didn't get the fairy tale stability she thought she was buying. The house became expensive, the comfort became heavy, and the people who love potential tend to disappear when they realize potential doesn't come with guarantees. I didn't celebrate that. I just noted it. Because that's the lesson nobody wants to learn until they have to. When someone treats love like an investment, they don't stay for the hard part. They cash out. And if you let them, they'll cash out with your dignity too. So here's what I took from it. And it's not motivational fluff. It's practical. First, when someone chooses their moment, when they wait until you're exhausted, broke, distracted, that's not honesty. That's strategy. The mistake would have been chasing Lauren down the driveway, begging for a conversation, trying to prove I was still worth holding. You don't negotiate for basic respect. The second you do, you're already losing. Second, pay attention to patterns, not speeches. Miles didn't stab me with a dramatic betrayal. He smiled, sympathized, then asked for a clean exit. Same with Lauren. Smooth words, clean hands, and you stuck holding the mess. The mistake would have been treating those moves like accidents. They weren't accidents. They were choices. Third, initiative beats reaction. I stopped the endless talking, set the format, locked down access, and made the one trade that mattered. Comfort for control. People think strength is yelling. It's not. Strength is making decisions early, without theatrics, and letting the consequences land where they belong. If a relationship needs you to shrink to keep the peace, it's not peace. It's training. And the day you stop cooperating, the whole game changes.